Let's jump into charting cryptos and commodities for this week. We will start, as we always do, with cryptocurrencies. We always start with Bitcoin, and we see the second week. We're going to go ahead and blow this chart up and pretty much use the weekly chart as we go through what we see going on. We saw where Bitcoin flattened out at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and then starting that week, beginning the 9th of January, popped up sideways, popped up a little bit, down some, and then starting in mid-March, up, and then starting in mid-April, sideways, and as we got into May, down. Now, I would love to see it go down for more than just a couple of weeks here. I'd like to see it reset nicely and then turn back around and start to move up and start giving us some better discernible patterns. We don't want a couple of weeks up, 4 weeks up, and then a few weeks down, sideways, slide down a little more, pop up, and then more down. We want things, as I say over and over again, pretty much every daily show, we want things that we can track with everything, with every chart. So again, I'm hoping Bitcoin will get back to the way it was previously when we did successfully practice trade it, and it gave us some discernible patterns. Now let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum down 2 over the last 4 weeks. It, about the same thing, beginning of the year, started moving up, then sideways in February, down a little bit there at the beginning of March, and then starting in about mid-March, up, and then starting at the end of April, started moving down, and this week, like the others, a down week that is forming. So again, want to see some discernible patterns here. We look at the top 10 cryptocurrency index fund. It basically weights it based upon the size of the cryptocurrency's market share. So Bitcoin is the big mover. That being said, you can see where it's very similar to not exactly the same, but very similar in tracking Bitcoin and Ethereum, plus all those other 8 cryptocurrencies thrown in there, but they're such a small part of the market share. Mostly Bitcoin. You can see over the last 4 weeks how it is peeling off some of that up move, and that's good. We want to see that happen. We want to see things roll back and then take off again to give us a discernible pattern. I'm hoping that's going to start again. That will make it easier for all of us to be able to chart and practice trade Bitcoin. Let's move on to commodities. We're going to start with the biggest downer for the day and work our way up to the only gainer, which is UGA. Let's first look at wheat. We can see wheat starting after the last little pop-up back in February, down sideways in late March, and down, starting to slide sideways some right now, but you can see where wheat came off its big highs from February of 2022. And again, nice to see because it means that wheat at least is not costing the poorer world an arm and a leg. What about copper? Now, copper is used in a lot of industry, and it can tell us some things about what's going on in heavy industry. We can, of course, see that it's been down solid for the last 4 weeks. We'll just continue to keep an eye on that, but it's good to see, again, things starting off moving down. We want discernible patterns after some scattering here on those prior weeks. How about corn? A lot of things live off corn. Corn, again, going down, not to its most its lows all the way back in January of 2022, but it is headed down. It's hit the lows that it hit back in July of last year, actually gone below that. So we'll keep an eye on corn. Soybean, likewise, moving down over the last many weeks. Hasn't hit those lows from July yet. But again, 4 weeks of decent down movement. Check out what's happened with silver. After silver was a booming up, last week it turned down. This week, even lower, big down candle. No wick on top like last week, just trudging down. Looks like gold is pulling back some too. It tried that back in late April, but didn't last over the last 2 weeks. This third week, it does appear to be losing some of its luster. What about coffee? Well, we saw where coffee most recently peaked back on the week beginning the 17th of April, then started trending down, popping up some this week for the day, down 1.16%. I like coffee. I don't want it to be super expensive. Nowhere near the most recent highs back in February of 2022, the most recent one on the screen there. What about UNG? This is the United States natural gas. Look at it. It's just good to see it that low. We talked about natural gas shortages over the winter. At least you heard that on the news. And you saw where natural gas peaked back in August of last year, and it is way, way, way off its high of $34.50 down to $6. Let's see, the low, $6.66. Isn't that beautiful? I guess the real most recent low, $6.10. So is trying to move up some this week. Don't know where that is actually going to go. What about sugar? It's peeled off from some of that movement where it topped out last week. But again, sugar really started taking off back in October of last year. But for 4 weeks of a little pullback, sugar has just been climbing like crazy. Oil, we saw oil bump up back in late March for that week. The first 2 weeks of April, then started losing and has fallen off over the last 4 weeks. And of course, the United States Gasoline Fund, same kind of thing, popped up for 3 weeks. In the last few weeks, it has been headed down. The most recent low was that week beginning the 1st of May. Hasn't hit near those lows recently. And this week, it's sort of fallen off that trend line. It set us up for about 3 weeks, so we'll keep an eye on gas. That is where we are for charting cryptos and commodities. Like I tell you, the thing I love about looking at these commodities once a week is to get a feel for what's going on with real things in the world, whether it's wheat, copper, corn, soybeans, silver, gold, coffee, gasoline, natural gas, sugar cane, or oil. All of those are interesting and give you a real world feel for what's going on with real things out there. And again, all the rules apply. You can backtrack, you can practice trade, you can use weekly vertical crossovers, you can do all those things, setting up your profit and loss bands. And if you want to trade commodities, you can sure practice it right here. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.